Hey, this is Morgan Pratt with the JayMac for Congress campaign. If you're listening to this podcast, sounds like you like JayMac. You can find out more about him by going to his Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube channel. Please remember to subscribe and rate us. Now coming up, more JayMac.
Hello and welcome into another edition of the JayMac podcast. This edition is going to be more about things that I've learned as a candidate for Congress. I'm getting a tremendous education. I will let you know I'm having an amazing time meeting all of the voters of Utah District 4, all of the mayors. It's just been an incredible journey and pleasure. And I'm so thankful to anybody who has received us so well. But I'm also getting an education about things that I believe speak to the core of our problems right now in Washington, D.C. And this one is something we've talked about a little bit before in previous podcasts, but it has to do with money. Money wins elections. People who are able to raise the most money are able to generate the most name recognition, attack their opponents, and then they're able to win. And so the question is, who's paying for these elections? If you find out who's paying for elections, then you find out where the loyalty comes from for a representative. Are they loyal to the voter, or are they loyal to the person writing them the biggest checks? Well, here's a couple of things that I want you to know about running for Congress. I am completely limited on how much money I can raise from an individual. It's $2,800 per election cycle. So $2,800 for the primary, $2,800 for the convention, and then $2,800 for the general. So the most that I can take from any single donor is $8,400. Now, I want you to do some simple math with me here. If the most that I can take is $8,400 per person, and the estimates are that to win a primary election, it's going to cost around $1.3 million. How am I going to raise those monies? Now, the average general election, like people are telling me that to win Utah 4, it's going to cost upwards of $10 million. Now think about that level of money when the most that you can raise from any one person is $8,400. That is really eye-opening and shocking, I think, to a lot of people hearing this. So one of the things that I've learned is that because in the House of Representatives, you have to run every 2 years, which, let's be honest, that should be changed, that congressmen spend a huge amount of their time while they're in Washington meeting and calling wealthy donors because they have to get ready for the next election. In fact, I saw one survey that said that the average congressman spends 30 hours a week while they're in Washington. They're not meeting with people and issues. They're not attending hearings. They're not fighting for Utah values. They're sitting in an office somewhere outside of Congress, and they're calling wealthy donors, and they're trying to raise money. Now, not only does this keep them from focusing on their job, it also keeps them focusing on who? Is it you, the voter, or are they focusing on the wealthy donors? Well, you already know the answer. So one of the reasons Washington is broken is because the average everyday citizen is not participating in the fundraising process, because most people can't write a check for $8,400 and then they'll write one for their wife. Most people can't do that. And so it's only the wealthy that can do that. And that means you're not getting the phone call from the congressman saying, hey, I really want to be sure that I represent you well in this next election. What issues are most important to you? No, they're calling the wealthy. And the wealthy are saying, here's my issues. You want me to donate again? Here's what I care about most. So what happens is your vote is not what is most important. It's the people with the money. And in my opinion, this has got to change. Now, it can be changed if there are a bunch of like-minded individuals in Congress who decide to make adjustments on campaign contributions. But until then, I have to play in the realm of reality. I have to sit here and ask myself, how am I going to win this election? Am I going to go and cater to the wealthy? Am I going to go and approach the super PACs and the special interest groups? And am I going to go and seek outside money that isn't from Utah? Well, I don't want to do that. I want to create real change in Washington. I don't want to be beholden to these groups. You know, one of the things that people ask me the most is they're like, JayMac, we think that you're an honest guy, but we've seen it before. A good, honest person goes back to Washington, D.C., and within a single election, they've changed. And you can tell that they're now not looking to the voter, they're catering to other people. How are you, JayMac, not going to do that? Well, I can already feel that pull, right? Who am I going to cater to? And so I've decided that we have to change as a people. And I've decided, and I've looked at this every other way, and I'd love your feedback and your ideas on this, but I've come to the conclusion that if the everyday average voter is not going to get involved in the fundraising process of campaigns, then there will never, ever be the type of change that we really want in Washington. And so I've racked my brain and I've thought about it, and I'm like, how can we come up with a system where people who are not of significant means can participate in this process? And we've come to the conclusion that most people, given the right circumstances, can make a small monthly donation. And so we set up the JayMac Keystone Club. And the idea is simple, $10 a month. $10 a month from you can help us take back Washington. $25 a month, $50 a month can help us take back Washington. Because if you think about it, if over the months of the campaign, and then if I do get to go to Congress and over the years of being in Congress, if we are raising monthly donations from people like you, then we won't have to spend 30 hours a week calling the wealthy and begging them to donate again. This is a way to ensure that those who represent us and those who we are sending, who we feel who are honest, who are people of character, that they won't be changed when they get to Washington. Why? Because we're supporting them with our vote and with our wallet. And it doesn't take a lot. It really wouldn't take a huge number of donors to get our campaign to the point where we wouldn't have to worry about calling the wealthy or the super PACs or anybody else. And that's the world that I want to live in. That's the world where we will see real change in Washington. So I'm asking you, if you are listening to this, to please consider going to jaymacforutah.com/keystone.html, and Morgan will put a link to that in this podcast description, and just commit to a monthly donation. $10 a month really can make a difference. I believe that. I think it's a solution that we can all get behind. And then we've added some great rewards. We're calling it, again, the Keystone Club. And depending upon the level of donation, we're throwing you some swag and some perks as well to make it a little bit, more fun. But the bottom line is, I'm racking my brain every single day asking the question, how can I bring real change to Washington? If I have to follow the traditional fundraising path, then I don't know that we'll be able to do it. So I'm asking you to please consider this idea. Please join the Keystone Club and make it so when I'm in Washington, I know this is going to sound crazy, but so that when I'm in Washington, I'm actually fighting for Utah values, as opposed to calling the wealthy and begging them for more money.
Thanks for listening to the JayMac podcast. If you'd like to donate to JayMac for Congress, you can go to JayMacForUtah.com. That's JayMacForUtah.com.